You can mix and master your beats to hit hard in FL Studio. Today, I'm going to be reacting to FL Studio Basics video, mix and master beats to hit hard and loud. This should be a great video. I'm here to provide my 2 cents on it, just reacting to it. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You've been making beats for a while now and they sound really good. The melody is perfect, the drums sound fire, and you think the world is ready to hear your music. But then you go on YouTube and realize that your beats don't hit nearly as hard than the ones from other producers. You feel sad and ready to give up. But please don't, because today I will teach you a few ways to make your beats sound hard and loud. Before we get into the first trick, you need to understand something really important. We are not mixing and mastering engineers, we're beat makers. When an artist buys your beat, he's probably going to the studio to record his vocals. Then the mixing engineer will take all the sounds of your beat and mix it together with the vocals of the artist. All we gotta do is make sure that the beat sounds fire to get the rapper's attention. To do that, we're gonna make a beat first. I created this melody. Sounds great. Next, I'm gonna lay down a simple but aggressive 808 pattern. Let's add a quick drum pattern, and now the loop sounds like this. That's perfect. And now it's time to level the mix. You can adjust the volume in the channel rack or in the mixer track. Some people say it doesn't matter, but it actually makes a huge difference. Because with the gain knob in the channel rack, you adjust the volume before it's sent to the mixer, which means before slot 1. When you use the fader in the mixer, you adjust the volume after the effects chain. Open up the playlist, and here you can see our pattern. Right-click it and choose split by channel. Select the melodies by holding shift and clicking them, and then right-click them. Then choose quick render. Now you have these wave files, which can come in really handy later. Create a quick arrangement, and once that's done, send all the sounds to the mixer. I like to make a bus for my drum sounds and one for my melodies. Then select the instruments and send them to the bus only. Now we can easily mute the drums or put effects on all of them. To level the beat, mute everything and start with the melody.
Okay, I want to jump in right here and kind of push back just a little bit. I agree with everything else as far as having your arrangement, having different buses for your drums and your melodies. That's a great way to gain control. You can run into an issue of making individual sounds sound good, and then when all the pieces of the puzzle are placed back together, you kind of lose your focal point or your direction on why you decided to finalize or mix the beat. You want to make sure that the magic that made the beat what it was, that gave you that feeling, that pulled you in, that made you want to actually say, hey, this beat is great, it's done, I want to mix it and send it to an artist. You can run into an issue of cutting and mixing away and panning away and affecting your way out of that raw, rugged feel that initially captured you. And I say that not just speaking just theoretically. This is something that I used to do way back in the day, was try to get each sound perfect in the mixer and then place everything back together, then hope that it glued and gelled well together. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have all your faders where you want them to be. Make sure you have enough headroom on your master. Make sure things aren't just like bumping up against the master. Then you want to figure out, really, how do I want to enhance this overall beat? What do I want to improve? Is the melody getting in the way of the vocal frequency? Do I kind of need to carve out a little bit of space? And what about the drums? Are they kind of hiding from each other? Let me try panning a few things out the way a little bit. And you can really only come to that conclusion if you're playing the beat all together. I like to play the beat all together, maybe mute the melodies all together and make sure everything is fitting and glued well together and working well together. Then get to the drums, make sure they're working well together, then listen to the whole thing together. It's almost like trying to Photoshop or color correct a picture by zooming in really closely at a certain part and then using your tools and then zooming out and then hoping everything matches together. You don't really want to do that, just in my opinion. Try to keep things as together as possible. If you need to, if you're hearing something that's really like aching your ears and you want to take it out of the beat, then I would recommend muting that individual sound and kind of carving or taking out what you don't want. But try the best that you can to have, at the very least, sections. I'm listening to the entire drum section together, I'm listening to the entire melody section together, then I'm putting them all together. Try not to do individual sound work, because I'm telling you, you can start chasing your tail, losing the focus and the focal point of the actual beat that made you want to even export it in the first place. And you could actually waste a lot of time doing this. You could have a much longer beat mixing process than what you really need to have. So please try to keep things together as much as possible whenever you're mixing beats.
Then I like to level the 808. When you're done, it's really important to fine-tune the volume of the elements with all the mixers enabled. That way you can hear the entire mix at the same time. Make sure to leave a little headroom because you're gonna need that for the last trick in this video.
So there it is. He just, after I made my commentary, he mentioned about, listening to everything together in context, also leaving enough headroom. So hey, great minds think alike. I'm glad he added that point in there. Guys, please don't chase your tail when it comes to mixing beats. Please have a plan. And also, if you have it, try to A/B your beat against a commercial beat that you enjoy that's out there, or maybe even a type beat that a producer that you really like has made. So that way you can start to find your weak points when it comes to mixing, and then over time you can start to improve it. Don't try to fix all your weak points when it comes to mixing instantly. It's going to be a journey. So if you notice something about a bigger producer or a type beat producer's instrumental, just kind of make a mental note, or maybe even write it down that you want to get better at this. Maybe their snares are snappier. Maybe their beats have a bit more motion. Maybe their beats are just more in depth and thicker. And there's all kinds of different aspects of a beat that we love as producers, and kind of keep a note or a mental note on the different points that you want to improve on. But you never really know that, and you never really have a guideline or a map on how to improve to pull your skill set up to in the future.
We're gonna make the beats sound as crispy as on YouTube, but first we need to clean up the sounds. I mentioned these tricks in one of my last videos, so if you already know them, you can skip this part. First, put the kick and 808 in mono. That way it sits in the middle and the rest of the mix has more space. Then if it's necessary, remove the lows from the melody. We do this to make space for the lower frequencies, such as the bass or 808. But be careful with this, because sometimes the character of your melody sits in the lower frequencies, and then of course you don't want to cut them out. Next, open up a compressor on the drum bus. Create an aggressive compression like this. Then in the effects chain, turn down the mix knob.
That was a good point about not cutting away the low end frequencies in the melody. Again, having those spectrum analyzers on the parametric EQ can kind of play tricks on you. We're mixing with our ears, not with our eyes. I try to get you guys to turn off that spectrum analyzer in the parametric EQ that's showing the frequencies, but some of you guys have to have it on. And moving on to using a compressor on the drum bus. One thing I like to use a compressor that has a whole lot of character on the drum bus. There's one called the DBX 160 by Waves. I really like the way that sounds. Recently, I just reviewed a plugin called the AK9X by Beat Skills. This is just $20, and that has a great tone and gluing properties to add to your drum bus. It can kind of give you that analog, that rich kind of tone that just glues all the drums together. It just sounds like everything's coming out of like one machine or one drum machine. And again, the plugin is just $20. So if you guys have a little bit of money you want to invest in yourself, I'm not affiliated or sponsored with the company. This is just something I've did as a review. Check out the plugin review on my channel. I have plugin reviews, so go ahead and check that out. But yeah, that's also a really good tool to use on your drum bus. So try the DBX 160 by Waves, and then also try the AK9X by Beat Skills, and those have great gluing properties. You don't have to use too much, just a little bit. Just turn it on a little bit and watch the drums glue together and really give you some nice character.
Next, you also want to sidechain the kick and snare with the 808. I already made a video about that, so go check it out. Click the little eye icon. The next step is gonna change your beats forever. We're gonna make it louder and crispier, but we can do that in a few ways. First one, throw a soft clipper on the master channel. Now just turn up the threshold and play around with it. Let me explain how it actually works. With the soft clipper, you can make the sound louder without it clipping. This is done by gently compressing the master signal. With the threshold knob, you can set the threshold of how much the audio signal will be compressed. Then with the post gain, you can make the compressed signal louder. This works perfectly fine, but what I like to do is add another soft clipper on top of the previous one. Then turn the threshold all the way up and adjust the post. This will change the master volume before the other soft clipper. It gives you a little more control.
That sounds like a pretty cool trick, using more than one soft clipper on the master. That's actually something that I've never explored myself personally. I personally like using the iZotope Maximizer. You guys may or may not have heard of that. It's a great plugin to bring up the loudness on the master channel. Of course, it's called Maximizer. And it also has a soft clipper in there, so you can get the volume up, get everything hidden the way that you want to. Then it also has a soft clipper that you can just pull up a little bit, and it actually sounds pretty good. So I haven't used the soft clipper on the master, but I do like the soft clipping in the iZotope Maximizer. And if you have access to it, then go ahead and give it a try.
The next trick is a little bit more complicated, but it's worth it, so write it down. First, add a compressor to the master chain to glue everything together. These settings can be different for every beat, but for me it's always around these values. Underneath the compressor, open up a soft clipper, then open up a limiter and leave them open at the same time. Turn the ceiling all the way up because we don't need that. Instead, turn down the saturation for something like -2 or 3 dB, depending on how much room you want to give the artist. This will make sure that the transient will be cut off rounder instead of just everything that hits the ceiling. Next, go to the soft clipper and decrease the threshold. Increase the post gain until you see the transient reaching the red bar. This technique makes sure that the master isn't oversaturated, and it gives you more room for the artist to play with.
That sounds like a pretty cool technique to me. Definitely go ahead and give it a try if you've never tried something like this. We all have our own ways of coloring and shaping our beats in a way that's pleasing to our ears and also to the artists that we work with. So give this a try and see what kind of results you get. When it comes to limiting and mastering your beats, one thing you want to keep in mind is how much low end you have in your beat, because if you're making your beat louder, you have a lot of low end, and then you notice you play another beat that's equally as loud, and let's just say we're looking at the LUFS or maybe even the RMS. Hopefully this is not too technical, but if you're looking at the LUFS or the RMS on your beat and another beat, and then the other beat sounds much louder than your beat, even though they're at the same RMS or LUFS, one thing you want to look out for is your low end. Your low end could be eating up and absorbing so much that it's hard for it to get loud. So watch how much low end that you have in your beat. And once again, a great way to keep that in check is to A and B your beat against, in this case, more so a professionally mixed and mastered beats. If you haven't looked at it or you're not aware of it, you can go to a website called QOBuzz to find the uncompressed, the degraded version of instrumentals. One that I like is Hit Boy. He has an instrumental project that you can get on QOBuzz, and it just sounds great, and it's going to expose all the little flaws that you have in your mixing, and make you know that and realize that even if you've been mixing beats for a long time, there's still a ways to go, and we're always continuously growing. I believe those beats may be mastered as well, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Don't try to get it that loud as it's gonna be if it's actually mastered, but just kind of use it as a bit of a reference point. This is how things are panned. This is how the low end is sitting. This is where the different sounds and the ear candies are coming out. This is a great way to kind of keep yourself centered and having a guideline on how to mix and arrange your beats in a way that you can get them loud without crushing the dynamics, and then also having too much low end where you can't even get the beat as loud as you want it to get. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you comment FL Gang below. This video was an FL Studio video by FL Studio Basics. So we're in there cooking up beats, we're in there giving tutorials, just doing so much in this program. I want to make sure that I give back to the community. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace.
Desmond A.